And welcome back. And here we are with a preview of one of the best times of the year, the NCAA Division One Indoor Championships. We have a jam-packed weekend. It is not just Division One; there is also Divisions Two and Three going on as well. But I first like to preface this, apologizing for getting this out a day late. I meant to get this video out yesterday, but life will life. Secondly, I would also like to apologize for some of the pictures. I've noticed lately that sometimes they will show up one way on my end, and when they're on YouTube, they'll look a different way. Or all pictures for a certain athlete only come out one way. So if the pictures are either small or there's missing, I apologize in advance. I'm not trying to be funny or belittle any athlete. I respect every athlete that is competing this weekend and the ones that are not. So this is not meant to harm. It's just unfortunately technology working against me. Without further ado, I want to get started, but I will break down that we are doing all the women first, and then we'll do the men. And we're going to just go by the running events to the field events, and we'll go from the shortest distance to the longest distance. And then we'll do jumps and throws. So, without further ado, let's get started right away on the women's side. And we'll start with the 60-meter dash. And right out the gate, you have Alicia Burnett of Ole Miss, who is tied for the national lead at 7:08. And then joining her is Victoria Cameron of Tarleton State. Also, again, they're tied at the national lead of 7:08. Those are the top two coming in, and on paper, they're going to tell you that's who the battle is between. Both have great starts. Alicia Burnett, who is a senior at Ole Miss, is really kind of taking things by storm. Even though former sprint coach Holland Sugar went on to Florida, it seems that the coaching staff there at Ole Miss is still able to keep on. And we know the battle was between her and Victoria Cameron on paper. But I'm going to submit to you another name, the defending champion, Deja DeFran of USC. I'm labeling her as the dark horse. So, as the dark horse, it's simply because she is not one of the top two times, but she is defending champion, and she's had a bit of an inconsistent indoor season. She's unfortunately false started at two big meets, one of them being the Big Ten championship. And I think it's part of her very patented strong start. She's an excellent starter. It's what got her the 709 last year to win the NCAA indoor title. And so I think that her and her coach will get things together. You know, USC has done a phenomenal job developing their short sprinters. And I think Deja is being underestimated here because all the attention is on Victoria and Alicia. They forget the defending national champion. So I'm actually going to pick Deja as my option. So at the end, when we're doing a recap, I will break down what I got right and what I got wrong. I'm hoping this is one of the ones I get right. So we'll put Deja as our 60-meter champion. Now moving on, we'll go to the 200 and we'll look at the first picture you may see is of Adasia Hodge and Jamija Ford. And they are 1A and 1B. Adasia Hodge is having a year. She missed last year, her technical freshman season, but she was able to come back this year and she's kind of blazed her own path. She's been just solid, specifically in the 200. She is the national leader at 22:32. And then you see Jamija Ford at 22:58. But I want to include another defending champion that is kind of going under the radar, and that is India Mayberry of TCU, who did not have the outdoor season that she wanted after an incredible indoor season, dealt with some injuries, and even had a delayed start to this indoor season. We didn't see her until late January, really early February, unlike most of the ladies on this, where we saw them in mid January, some early January. But she's coming on strong, and she still has the best PR in the field at 22:30, as you see in the picture. But her best time this season is 22:57. I'm not, however, going to pick her as the champion. I'm actually going to pick Adasia as my choice. Now, moving to the women's 400, this is an event that's wide open, but we'll get started with Madison White of USC. Um, and Madison is technically more of a 200 runner doing the 400. She leads the nation with a time of 50.93. Her 200-meter speed proves to me that she can actually seriously lower that. And I think having an Olympic champion and former NCAA record holder and champion Quincy Watts as your coach, they will tinker and use her speed to her advantage. She's going to be going up against Ella Onojuevo of USC. I mean, excuse me, of LSU. Oop, got that mixed up. And Ella, like Madison, is also a pretty strong 200-meter runner. And hats off to Coach Dennis Shaver at LSU, doing a really good job with his long sprinters. I think Ella is probably one of the best they've had in a long time. We're talking going back to the days of Hazel Ann Regis and Nadia Davy. I mean, way, way back when Muna Lee was their teammate. So we're going way back, but she's running their times. And I think the dark horse, dark horse allows for me to pick anyone that's qualified in the field. I actually went with Rachel Joseph of Iowa State. I felt really, really confident with her being the dark horse because she just gets better as the season goes on and she kind of sneaks up. She was so dominant in the Big 12 last year, but kind of went unnoticed because she's not at a traditional sprint power. She's at Iowa State. But the times that she's running makes warrants her to draw a lot of attention. She is the Big 12 champion, and you cannot ignore that. She also runs the 400 indoors really smart and does a really great job tactically. My pick is going to be Madison White. I think she's going to run a 50-point low. I do not think we have a 49-second runner in this field. The 400 has kind of come back to reality just a little bit this season, maybe. We don't know what Ella and Madison and even Rachel may do come championship, but just based on what I've seen so far, I don't think anyone's dipping under 50 seconds. Now, moving to the hurdles, we got some really good hurdle performances this season, far better in the 60 hurdles than we've had in recent years. But you have Emmy Scales of Kentucky, and there is Kentucky with another, yes, another really good hurdler. They've had Jasmine Camacho Quinn, Kendra Harrison also. They've just had some really good luck with the hurdlers, and she's next in line. She leads the nation at a 7.83. She is one of only two athletes in the field under 7'9", and for majority of the season, she was the only athlete under 7'9" until the Big Ten championships, where our number two runner, Aaliyah McCormick of Oregon, showed up. And fun thing about Aaliyah, don't forget, she's a defending outdoor champion. She is the best of the sprints and hurdles groups for the Oregon women. They seem to kind of take some steps back with the development of their sprinters. I think that may get addressed because if, they want to remain competitive on the national level, not just in the Big Ten, you want to have a healthy balance throughout your team, especially with the way things have changed with recent rulings that allow for more scholarships. Moving also is our dark horse, and that will be Jaya Covington of Texas A&M. I picked Jaya because Jaya is one of those Texas A&M athletes which has been consistent with them under Pat Henry over the years, who show up at the NCAA championships and just performs on a stellar level. She did that last year, um, doing a phenomenal job indoors. I believe either won it or was very close. But Jaya, to me, is the dark horse. I think that she's capable of also running a 7.8. And I think that's what's going to be needed to win the title. She is a dark horse. However, that being said, I trust Emmy to be the winner. So she is going to be my pick. Now, moving up events, we're going to go to the 800 meters, and this is where things get really exciting. You have Gladys Chivukatich of Clemson. The fun thing about Gladys is that I've seen her in person a number of times last year at the Penn Relays. I hope to see her this year at the Penn Relays. She is a great runner, but I think sometimes at championship meets, her planned race doesn't really go as she may have wanted it to go. And the moment she's thrown off tactically, she has a hard time repairing. We saw that happen at the ACC championships. She's the NCAA leader at 158.81, but she was not able to maintain her poise and win the ACC title against the previous NCAA champion from 2024, Juliet Whitaker, who was the next person on this list. Juliet Whitaker won both indoor and outdoor 800. And she has a seasonal best of 159.76. And she's a strong competitor. She is, um, someone with a lot of championship pedigree experience. She's being coached by the legendary J.J. Clark. Stanford does historically well at championship meets. I think she's going to be tough to beat. My dark horse isn't really much of a dark horse to most people, but that's Haley Kitching of Penn State. Technically, I should have announced Haley before because she is the number two runner in the country. However, I think we can't ignore Juliet has just been strong because Juliet has already beaten Gladys. That's what moved her up in my mind. I also am gonna go with Juliet as the champion. She did not have the 2025 season that she would have liked, but I think she's rebounding pretty well in 2026. Now, moving on to the mile. And this is to me the most competitive event on the women's side um, that I think any event we'll see compete this weekend. The hurdles are stacked, they are. And, the women's 4x4 is pretty stacked, but I feel that it's more top heavy than anything. The event where the talent is just sensational from top to bottom is the women's mile. This is an insanely deep field, and this is the one event where I am extremely uncomfortable picking because I'm almost positive I'm going to get it wrong. No matter how I pick it, it may be someone who I'm not even mentioning. So, number one right now in the country, a converted time, Billa Jipkiru of Oklahoma State. That is the current clubhouse leader, and she's run 4:20:34. And Oklahoma State, also a really good distance program that shows up at championship meets. Then we have Riley Chamberlain of BYU. And, BYU right now, let's not say right now, let's say for the past 6, 7 years, have really kind of secured distance dominance. They've kind of become the preemptive women's program with depth. They're ranked high in about three events, not including the DMR, and they have enough depth where they may not need their top miler. That's how strong they are. I think they're definitely going for the NCAA record in the DMR, and I think they're going to get it. But back to the mile, Riley Chamberlain's 4:20:61 is nothing to slouch at because that's not a converted time. Then you have the defending champion, who is the dark horse, Wilma Nielsen. Another defending champion who is a dark horse, and that's simply because those in the field have performed better, and it's because she's already lost a number of times this season, most notably to her teammate, Suyan Ayades, also of Oregon. And I really wanted to put her here instead of Wilma Nielsen, but I just can't fathom leaving off a defending champion. However, with all that being said, I'm going to shock you all and say Billa. And yes, I'm going with Billa because she has a number one time, but I'm also going with Billa because she was dominant at the Big 12 championships in ways no one else was. Billa has beaten Riley, as great as she is, but Billa not only had the mile conference title, she also ran in the 1K, which means if it becomes a foot race, she does have the speed to keep up and pull away from her competitors. Moving up to the 3000, where it gets even more fun, we have the legendary Doris Lemingol. And I'm calling her legendary because her career at the University of Alabama has been nothing short of remarkable. She's either breaking a record or joining an all-time list every time she goes out. And it's going to be the same when it comes to this outdoor season. In fact, it might even be worse. She leads the nation in the 3000 time of 8:31:39. And this is a top heavy race. And I think it's really between her and just simply two others. One of them, of course, is the superstar freshman, Jane Hedengren of BYU. And Jane has the number two time in the NCAA with an 8:34:98. And Jane has really been chasing Doris pretty much since she's joined the collegiate ranks. And I don't think that's going to change this indoor season where I think we're going to finally see her really start to pressure Doris is when it comes to outdoors. Um, and then the dark horse, I am putting Hilda Olamomoy of Florida. She has an 840 633, which is not a top three time, but Hilda has been kind of in Doris's shadow for a while. They were teammates for a moment at Alabama. Doris chose to stay. Hilda chose to follow her coach to the University of Florida. And I feel that she's had mixed results. I did not find her as competitive as she was when she was at University of Alabama. However, this is probably the most consistent I've seen her indoors. She really pushed it at the SEC championships. I think it's just Doris is just more talented, but she gave a really good solid effort for a runner up, and I think she's going to be in the mix when it's all said and done. And I'm going to give it to obviously Doris, but I'm going to immediately pivot to the 5K and say I also expect for Doris to win there as well. She is going to go up against the number one ranked Jane Hedengren, who's run 14:44.79, but I'm more comfortable with Doris completing that double. That's just my story, and I'm sticking to it. All right, so we can move on from those individual running events to the last two running events we'll talk about will be both the relays. And the first relay we'll talk about is the DMR. And right now, the number one leader in the clubhouse is BYU. They've got that 10:33:10, which is a converted time. However, I think they can still go better than that. How about that? That's how highly I think of BYU and the coaching staff and their development over recent years. Um, Chasing them, you have Oklahoma State, who, they're always going to be in the mix of it. I said they're, a really strong program. They do very well at championship meets. In the dark horse, I'm going to say is Arkansas. And they're, of course, competing for a team title, although I don't think their team is strong as last year's team. However, at these meets, things can happen, so they're going to be in the mix. But I think this race will be won by BYU. They are my pick. I think I've made that point pretty clear throughout this recording. Now, the 4x4, I still feel very strongly that this is going to be probably one of the most competitive relays we've seen. We got a preview at the SEC championships. All that was missing was Florida. They had secured the SEC team title, their first in a little bit, but they did not run their A squad, and I think most of that squad will be fresh. And so things should get interesting for with Florida in that heat. This is going to be a very competitive group of four teams. They're all SEC teams, so I think the winning time will be a sub 325. And you have Arkansas, who is the leader in the clubhouse. They've run 3:25.82. Next, you have your runner-up team, which is South Carolina. South Carolina has ran 3:26.85. In the dark horse, I can't believe I'm saying that because this is the deepest group, Georgia Bulldogs. They did not run a particularly good SEC meet. I don't know what happened. They noticeably looked off their game. Knowing Coach Carol Smith Gilbert and watching her on social media and seeing her coach, I'm quite sure that she got a message through this group that was unacceptable and that she expects a better performance. And I think she's going to get it, although I think she'll get it in the form of them finishing runner-up because I think Arkansas is going to win it. And that concludes the women's running events, and now let's pivot to the jumping events. And right out the gate, we have the long jump, and this is one of the events I'm just curious to see what the winning mark is. And that's simply because my favorite and the number one ranked long jumper, Sophia Beckman of Illinois, she's the only athlete in the field jumping over 22 feet this season. And I think she's going to jump a high 22. I think her coach, Petros Kyprianou, as you've heard me say on a number of recordings on this channel. I just think he's done a phenomenal job with coaching his athletes at Illinois. It was the same way at Georgia, but he's really kind of put foot on the pedal with his group this year. This is a very deep group in a number of events: the long jump, the triple jump, the high jump, and the pentathlon. He has an athlete that will be mentioned. But leading the group is Sophia Beckman. She's jumped 22.5, 3 1/4 inches, or 6.85 meters, and she will certainly be the favorite to win. Competing against her is Christina Ochinogar of Tarleton State. And Tarleton State really developing an impressive program. They are on the Texas A&M University system, so they are a Texas school. So they have that access to an insane amount of talent. And they also have access to great coaching, which they currently do have. So her performances are nothing short of amazing, but Tarleton State's kind of been here. We've named a number of athletes over the past year. Um, it's not just been Victoria Cameron, it's been a number of athletes, and she's another one. The dark horse in this will be Beckman's teammate from Illinois, and that's Elizabeth Induti. Elizabeth has jumped 21 feet 9 inches, or 6.63 meters. And, I don't, I'm putting her as a dark horse because I think that Petros's kids will perform well. So if something happens to Sophia, I think that Elizabeth is ready to step up. Um, by the way, Pristina's top marks are 6'6", or 6 meters, 6.69, or 21 feet 11 and a half. My apologies for not naming that, but again, she's got some great jumps, and she might even jump 22 as well. Now, moving on to the triple jump, the leader in the clubhouse has been the leader since the first week of January, and that will be Shantae Foreman of Clemson. There are literal videos of Shantae on my channel. I've mentioned her a number of times. She is a very talented triple jumper. She's done very well at Clemson, and she leads the nation with a jump of 46 feet 6 inches, or 14.17 meters. Talent, talented runner outside of Jamaica, and I say runner because she also sprints very well. The video on my channel is of her anchoring the 4x1 for Clemson back at the 2024 ACC Outdoor Championships. Shantae is a very well-rounded jumper. She can not only triple jump well, she can also long jump well. And she's got a talented field competing against her. You have Ruta Lasmain of Texas Tech, who is coming in at number 2, who I think will be her primary challenger. Ruta has been the favorite mentioned on this channel before, specifically for the outdoor season last year. But she's been a top tier triple jumper going back to her days at Florida State. I think the transfer to Texas Tech has worked out very, very well for her. The dark horse in this field I'm going to pick as Mercy Honesty. And Mercy is from the University of Illinois. She is another one of Petros's kids. She has the number 3 time, or not a number 3, but she has a mark of 44 feet 4 1/4 inches, or 13.52 meters. My pick is, of course, Shantae. I've seen her in person, and I trust that she will show up at the NCAA Championships to claim her title. Moving to the high jump, and this is a really deep field, really deep. You have Timmy Tope Adeshina of Texas Tech. She was a freshman, blazing the marks, putting up great performances. But we knew that she was going to have to do some learning at the championship meets, and she's done that. Claiming the Big 12 title, she was trying to go even higher than her already national leading mark of 6 feet 5 1/2 inches, or 1.97 meters. She's going to be tough to handle because she's beaten all of her top competitors already. Second, you have Rose Jabot of Illinois, 1.94 meters, or 6 feet 4 1/4 inches. And like I said, she also has unfortunately been beaten by Timmy Tope already. And then you have the dark horse, which is her Big 12 competitor, and that is Cherie Eno of Kansas State. Cherie has a mark of 1.93 meters, or 6 feet 4 inches. I think you can't ignore that she's being coached by a great coaching staff there at Kansas State. That was the coaches that left Arkansas to take over Kansas State. And what we're seeing them do is what we used to see Arkansas do. And it's ironic because what used to be a hallmark of their great NCAA championship team, specifically on the men's side, was always having those great triple jumpers and great long jumpers, specifically the triple jump. Now, moving on, before I do, I want to say that my favorite for this event is going to be Timmy Tope. I think I've kind of voiced that already, but that if you didn't know, that's who I'm picking. The women's pole vault was interesting this year, and Hannah Mole is the leader in the clubhouse. And one of the reasons why Hannah is the leader in the clubhouse is not just because she leads the nation with a 16 feet jump, 4.88 meters. She's the NCAA champion for 2024, and her sister was the NCAA champion of 2025. Her sister did not qualify, my guess, and I haven't seen any writings on this. It's just been kind of quiet on my end for that. I believe she is injured, but Hannah is ready to go, and I think she's in strong position to win the NCAA title. So I'm going to give her a favor before I name the other competitors. But the reason why I say that is because she's so far ahead of the rest of the field with her mark that I just think it's fair to note that there's a noticeable distance. There's almost a 10-inch gap between her and her second closest competitor. And that would be Marlene Mulla of South Dakota. Mulla has a 15 feet 2.25 inches jump. And then you have her teammate, Anna Willis, who has a 15-foot 1 jump, and that is 4.60 meters. Two talented South Dakota athletes. We know that they've been able to produce pole vaulters before. I believe they had the Gooderson twins before they transferred, but they've had a number of really good, talented pole vaulters. These are just the next in line. Normally we would be talking about Washington because they have a great program, but without Amanda Mole, it really is just Hannah. She has a teammate joining her, but she's the only real threat to me to win the national title. Now, moving to our throwing events, we have the weight throw, and this is where things get exciting. You have Antoinette Nabwe, who I had to be corrected because I know I put in my preview video that I thought it would be Giovanna Meeks, and that was just kind of it. No one was going to compete against her. And one of you all in the comments checked me on that. You said, no, you need to pay attention to Nabwe in Minnesota. There is a great group of weight throwers, and she's led for majority of the year. Full stop. But she lost at the Big Ten Championship to the dark horse, who I'm picking is Fetisang Makete of Illinois. Yep, another athlete from Petros, who's thrown 77 feet 9.25 inches, 23.70 meters. Antoinette has thrown 24.67 meters or 80 feet 11.25 inches. Giovanna Meeks has thrown 80 feet 4.25 or 23.70 meters. So you're looking at, a really competitive group, but I'm actually going to stick with Giovanna. I wrote that here, and I was like, I wonder how people are going to take this. They're going to say, you're sticking to your choice at the beginning of the year, even after all you've learned. I said, one of the reasons why I didn't pick Antoinette at the beginning of the season was that although she did well during the regular season outdoors, at the championship meet, I just didn't really see it from her. I didn't see her get to that level that I thought Giovanna could. Giovanna Meeks is the athlete I envisioned winning this event, but I do want to take the time to acknowledge Antoinette has beaten Giovanna, but she's also beaten Fetisang Makete, who also beat her. So this is going to be an interesting event because it's going to have major team title implications, especially for Illinois. And in the shot put, we of course have the leader in the clubhouse, Axelina Johansson, of course, of Nebraska. What would it be if we didn't have a Nebraska athlete, not mention one of the greatest schools of teaching field technically? She has a 19.72 meter, 64 8.25 throw, well above her competitor Megan Haug of Auburn, who is second with 61 feet, 11 and 3/4 inches, or 18.89. Was watching Megan at the SEC championship. She's a gamer. She has really, really good championship pedigree. She showed up big time for the Auburn Tigers. Um, I don't really have a dark horse because I really think it's between them two. But if I did have to put one, I'm gonna say it's Akaoma Odaluga of Ole Miss. She's thrown 18.69 feeters. She has a 61-inch throw. And she lost to Megan Hogg at the SEC Championships, which had a great competition, by the way. But I really think the battle is going to be between Axelina and Megan, and I'm going to go with Axelina, defending champion, to win it. And now we're going to the pentathlon, and again, I want to make an apology. I have no problems being corrected here, so I thank the commenter who commented on my last conference review video, who advised me that Megan Humphreys, this is her first year at the Big Ten. I crossed her with someone else, so my apologies to all of you. This is her first year in the Big Ten at Illinois, and she's making an impressive imprint on the NCAA. She leads the nation, Megan Humphreys, in 4,459 points. And she's being coached by Petros. I mean, what else do you need? She's going to do well. She performs very well competitively in all the events. She's especially strong in the 800, and I don't think that's going to change here. I think she is going to find a bit of a challenge from Juliet Lauraquinte Hubner of Cincinnati, right up the road from there, even though that's the Midwest. Cincinnati, of course, now in the Big 12. She's had a score of 4,437 points. So she's literally on Megan's heels. That's only 22-point difference. And even close, and this is the dark horse, you have Vanessa Marcina of Kansas State, who at one point was the leader nationally until Megan took over the lead. So Vanessa's already been mentioned on this channel, and she's had a score of 4,429 points. So within a 30-point range, you have the top three athletes. And the number four is Megan Humphrey, teammate, who's also over 4,400 points. So we really will have a four-way battle. I'm not very confident, in my opinion. This is not to make the listener who supports Megan Humphreys feel away. It's not. It's just this is an insanely deep field, and this is so close. She is my pick going in, but I'm a little nervous. And that's the women's side of this preview. We're going to now transition to the men's side. And just like on the women's side, we'll go from the shortest distance to the longest, and then we'll do jumps and field. All right. So on the men's side, the top sprinter, of course, the one who kind of took the NCAA by storm a week and a half ago at the SEC Championships, Kenyon Sola Ajayi of Auburn, that super talented Nigerian sprinter who is super smooth as a runner. I enjoy watching this young man run. He's being well coached there at Auburn by Coach Leroy Burrell and his staff. He tied the NCAA record at 6:45. I don't know what he's going to do time-wise at this meet, but I'm curious to see how he fares up against the number two, because he's going to be hurdling also, and that's Malachi Snow. Malachi Snow, his time was converted down to a 6:48, and he's still the runner-up or the number two performer in the nation. 6:48 is no slouch time, especially if you're doing that in high hurdling as well. He is also major team points for Texas Tech, although I don't think this Texas Tech team is championship built. They don't have a relay to bring along. I think the incoming recruiting class is going to move them back towards national title contention. But they are still a pretty strong group. And things, points are going to be at a premium. If Malachi can pull off that super double, then we're having a whole different conversation about team title. I think the dark horse, and I know I'm going to catch some slack from this, is Devontae Howell of Tennessee. And the reason why I think I'm going to catch some slack is because he didn't perform particularly well at the SEC meet. None of the Tennessee guys did. It ended up being disappointing. Um, I'm going to be curious to see what um, Coach Ross does when he preps him for his championship race. See what steps have been taken to improve upon his championship performance. Because what we saw at the SEC is not going to cut it, specifically against Canyon Sola, who's going to really show up and show out. And that's who actually is going to be my pick to win it. I am going to pick Canyon Sola. I'm not as confident as I was after the SEC meet, because after the SEC meet, I was like, yes, it's going to be him. And then I watched the recap of the Big 12 meet, and I was like, Malachi looks good. I really kind of want Malachi just to stick to the 60 hurdles because speed wise, there's not a hurdler in the field with that type of speed. But also, I was like, well, what if he just runs the 60? Because he's such a fluid, light sprinter and got such an outstanding start. But I'm going to stick with my guns and go with Canyon Sola as the winner. And you guys can eat me up in the comments. Then we'll move on to the 200. We have the number 2 all-time NCAA runner in Garrett Kalund of USC. Hats off to the coaching staff there, doing a great job with him. He's ran 20.06. Enough said. Number 2 all-time. May we see the first American go under 20 seconds indoors? Possible. USC athletes show up at this meet. So I think he's going to do fine. I'm not going to predict a record, but I wouldn't be shocked if he did give us one. Number 2, we have Jelani Watkins, the super talented football player who transferred from LSU, obviously wanting more playing time. But Arkansas is one of those really good football and track programs, more aligned in the track, but I think their football program under new coaching is looking to improve their football aspirations, and he's a part of that. The dark horse is Wanye McCoy of Florida, and he's an important dark horse because Florida has team title aspirations. And again, I want to preface this by saying I am a Florida fan, so I, keep my eyes and ears to the ground when it comes to Florida athletes. Seeing him come back and perform the way he has in the 200 after a year of injuries, he looked pretty solid. I think we can't ignore how well Jelani ran against him at the SEC meet. And Jelani's a football player, so he didn't really get the same foundational training that Wanye got. So, and to be fair, Wanye is taller and is coming off an injury, and it's difficult for tall runners indoors. Um, but I'm just going to leave him as a dark horse because he has major team title implications because they didn't go into the season ranked. I want to make that known, and I felt a way that they weren't even listed in the top 25. And also, granted, this team is young; they have a lot of good young talent, but there's a lot of veteran talent that people are ignoring. And on some charts, they're listed as the highest to finish as number 2. They're going into the meet ranked number 4 with the coaches ranking, and they're even not even in the top 10 on the DieStat rankings. And I'm like, oh, okay, we'll see about that. But they do have team title hopes, and he's a big part of that. That being said, my pick is going to be Garrett Cologne. Moving on to the 400, we have a really strong field here. We actually have 2 runners that have already run under 45 seconds. Leading the NCAA is the super talented freshman by way of Texas at the University of Georgia. That is Jonathan Sims. He ran a 44.62. What's more impressive than that, that's faster than any indoor time of Michael Johnson, and that's number 2 all time in the NCAA. He's just outstanding, talented runner. Chasing him is Samuel Ogazi of Alabama by way of Nigeria. Nigeria having a really good season with their young athletes. If they can get everything together with their national organization, they are a force to be reckoned with. And I think they already are aware of that, but he is certainly proof that they have moved beyond just being 100 and 200 meter runners. He's a very fluid, talented 400 runner. He started his season a little bit later than everyone else, but that was to his betterment. He's run 44.72. just a tenth shy of Jonathan Sims, but he's already beaten Jonathan Sims one-on-one, so he knows how to do it. The dark horse, and I'm going to show my fandom a little bit. You guys can chill me up in the comments. I'm going to put Justin Braun of Florida. Unfortunately, he's had a case of the injuries, but this indoor season, he's looked solid. Let's give him his props. He ran a great preliminary heat at the SEC meet. Got a tough lane draw. Things, some challenges there indoors when it came to getting to the break. I think he's learned how to run against this group of talented runners. And I think he should get a decent lane draw in the finals because he has a great lane draw in the prelims. So I'm actually really comfortable with him as the dark horse, but I am going to pick Samuel Ghazi as the favorite to win. And I'm not discrediting young Jonathan Sims, but I'm always err on the side of caution. Freshmen have to learn. Even though India Mayberry won last year as a freshman, the difference is she hadn't lost the entire season. And unfortunately, Jonathan Sims has some L's on his season, and one of those is to Samuel Agassi. Now, moving on to the hurdles. We have a fantastic field of hurdlers. This is the deepest event on the men's side. Well, you know what? I'll take that back. I'll say this is the second deepest. The second deepest event on the men's side because this is extremely top heavy. And we'll get things started with Bradley Franklin. Bradley just really kind of shut things down. He had a great conference championship, leading the nation 7-4-1, but that was doing both the 60 and the 60 hurdles. What is he going to look like just doing the 60 hurdles? I mean, are we going to get a sub 7-4? Do I think he's going to challenge Grant's NCAA record? No. I do think there is the potential that one of these talented guys can go under 7-4. And another competitor, the number 2, and this is also converted down, that's Malachi Snow. I think that young man is so talented. I know you guys can tell. Malachi Snow has run 7.45. If he can get his speed to match his technique to be that of Bradley Franklin, running a 6.4 with perfect technique means you can run in the 6.2 range. And I want to make that very clear. That's the type of talent we're dealing with Malachi Snow. So I think his professional prospects are huge. But he is being asked to do a lot. Competing in both the 60 and 60 hurdles is hard. Grant Holloway did it to great effect. But I think Grant Holloway took years to prep for that. And I really, really, really am curious to see what Malachi Snow could do with just focusing at a championship meet on just his technique as a hurdler, because that's his one weakness. The dark horse I have is, and I can't believe this, Jacoby Tharp. And that's just because Jacoby has been my leader all year long. Anytime he's gone up against top tier competition, he's walked away the winner. And I think, after the SEC meet and the Big 12 meet, and the conference meet for Bradley Franklin and Samford, I shared with you all that I was less comfortable, and I still kind of am. I'm actually going to change what I've written down. I'm going to go with Malachi. Give me a sec. I'm changing my check mark. I'm going to go with Malachi Snow as the winner. Eat me up in the comments. Jacoby, love you, dude. Think you're very talented, but I can't ignore Malachi's speed. If he's literally the modern day Terrence Trammell, and he just has to get that technique down, and I think he can. Now, moving to what I think actually is the deepest event in all of the men's competition, and that is the 800. We can't slouch or ignore that the times that they are putting out this season have been cranking, and we have just been in awe of this insanely deep field. Unfortunately, Colin Solomon, who is the NCAA leader, chose not to run the 800, and I'm disappointed because I thought he could win it. However, the guy literally on his heels, Hendo Roban of Penn State, who's run 144.73, he will enter the meet as the number 1 guy. Penn State has 4 athletes in this race, and I am looking forward to what that 4x8 is going to do with the Penn relays. I want to see that Penn relay record broken, and I think they will break it, especially if they get decent weather. Competing against Hondo Roman is the guy who I thought would win it last year, which is Tanata Matsatsa of Georgetown. He had the NCAA record in the 1000. He had a really, really strong indoor season, but things just did not work out the way we wanted them to at the Indoor Championship. But he's run 145.12, so he's literally on the heels of Hondo. And then you have Hondo's teammate, Alan Clay of Penn State. Oh my God, Penn State is so deep. The fact that they've got the number 1 and number 3 guy, Clay has run 145.17. I think he's a strong dark horse. I mean, he might be number 4, but if he's number 3, that just goes to show how deep Penn State is. They have, again, 4 competitors. And I'm actually going to go with Hondo. I feel very confident. Hondo shows up at championship meets. He's a gamer. He proved that at the Big Ten meet. And we saw the tenacity and the depth of that really great Penn State team. All right. So let's move further up. We'll go to the mile. And this is going to be an interesting race because I don't think some of the best competitors are in the race. I think that for as great as the mile was this year, a lot of attention, a lot of the talent is being moved to the 3K and 5K. I get why. It's because of the DMR, and you want to make sure that your athlete is rested for the DMR because you're going to need it. With that being said, in the mile, your top entrant is Isaiah Gibbons of Colorado. I think he is in an uncomfortable spot because he unfortunately has the L. He did not win the Big 12 championships for Colorado. In fact, he finished 3rd. And conference meets are not normally great meets for time, and so it wasn't a shock that he didn't go under 4 minutes. But it's just the fact that he did not finish 2nd, he was 3rd. So he's gone up against great competition, and his time of 3:51.73 is a time that had to be evaluated or lowered converted. That's the word I'm looking for. Converted because of the size of the track he competed on and where he competed at. Number 2 is George Kuti of Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech, pretty good middle distance program. I think we got to stop ignoring them. I know that I normally give them a decent amount of credit when it comes to the 800, but they got some milers too, and he's kind of proven it. 3:52.02, not a slouch time. He's going to be in it. He's already beaten some big time competition. He's also competing in the DMR as well. His name is at least listed. Then you have Trent McFarland of Michigan. I am a native of Michigan. I am from Eastern Michigan University, so I've seen the Michigan guys up close. Now living in Georgia, see them less. However, Trent is my dark horse, and I'm going to shock you. He's also my pick. Trent has beaten some of the big names already. He is a gamer. He's also a great anchor for that DMR, which is very strong. We'll talk about that in a minute. I just think this race is the one that I'm really not confident on for men. But I think Trent's got a really strong shot at finally giving Michigan an indoor champion in the mile. It's been a while. The irony is Trent's being coached by a former Michigan NCAA champion and Coach Kevin Sullivan. I'm curious to see what the time is going to be. I don't think it's going to be a time that blows us out the water, but it will be a competitive time. Now, moving up to the 3,000, you have the main man, Marco Langen of Villanova. He is very spunky, very spicy. I enjoy his interviews. I enjoy his honesty, his gamesmanship. I've seen him in person. He shows up at big meets. He's very competitive. He's not shy of people who may be listed faster than him or who's expected to do better. He enters the meet as the number 1 with a time of 7:34 even. And competing against him is Colton Sands of North Carolina. And Colton is quite impressive. And North Carolina clearly doing very well with their distance runners. You know how I think about them. But he has kind of gone under the radar, unfortunately, because a lot of the focus has been on Marco Langen, our dark horse for this race. I might as well mention him now. Colin Solomon, who's ran 7:36.71. And I'm only putting him as dark horse because he is the NCAA leader in the 800, and he could qualify in every distance event. That's how great he is. And this is not to ignore our former champion in Hampton Samuel. We're going to get to him in a minute. But I think it's between those three guys, Marco, Colton, and Colin. But I am going to stick with Marco as the favorite to win the 3K. And he is actually going for the distance double. So let's move on to the other distance event that's going to catch a lot of attention. That's the 5K. And that would be him against the number one leader in the NCAA. That's Hampton Samuel. Hampton is a defending champion in this event indoors. He's done it before. He's done the double before. New Mexico is a great program. And Hampton has had a great career. I'm curious to see what he does in the 5K and the 3K. I mean, could he double again? We'll see. I really trust Marco in the 3K, and I trust Hampton in the 5K. So I'm going to give him my early favorite. He's 13:05.21. The dark horse I'm going to mention as Denis Kippinkatech of Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State guys tend to show up at the championship meet, shocking everybody, but I don't know. I really think this race is between Hampton and Marco. We'll see. And Hampton is doing the double as well. But I think the 5K is where he'll have his bread buttered. Now moving to the DMR. Michigan leading the way at 9:14.80. Then you have Oregon at 9:14.88 and Virginia Tech at 9:15.05. This is going to be an insanely competitive DMR, and I'm not sure if either of those three schools can win it. I have Michigan picked down. Full disclosure, I'm a homer. I'm picking them. But this is going to be a tough because Trent's got to come back from the mile prelims and run a great anchor leg against some serious competition, and that's going to be hard. In the 4x4, I have South Carolina leading the way at 3 minutes, 86 seconds. Then you have Florida at 3:02.15 as the number two. And the dark horse, I'm going to shock everybody, is Texas A&M 3:02.71, and that's because Texas A&M would technically have the number two time had they not been disqualified. I have really grown to fall out of favor with this event indoors on the men's side because the past couple of years, we always seem to get cheated out of a great race. I don't think it's a great race when someone is disqualified or there's all that bumping because I know that outdoors there's less of that, which is what makes the race so great. And I'm really hoping we get a great race between South Carolina, between Florida, between Texas A&M. And I'm going to go with South Carolina to win it because they don't have as many guys competing in the open as Florida and Texas A&M will. So I think the South Carolina team will be a little fresh. And they have dominated. Unfortunately, they did not have, the championship they wanted to have. And there was a lot of jockeying and some changes happened in that final heat, which threw both them and Florida off. But I think Coach Tim Hall will have them ready. I'll say that. And so that is our relays. Next up, we'll move into the field on the men's side, and we'll look at Kennedy Stringfellow on the long jump from Oklahoma. What a talented jumper. He is Savante Stringfellow's son, so he has great pedigree. His father is an NCAA champion for Ole Miss, and here he is at Oklahoma transferring, leading the nation with the 8.29 meter jump, 27.2.5. Coming in at number 2 is Greg Foster of Princeton, who also comes from great pedigree. I believe he is the nephew or son of the legendary Foster of UCLA, who won plenty of Olympic medals. But he's jumped 27 feet, 8.24 meters. And then you have the dark horse. And there's a reason why I dragged all of this out. Kelsey Daniel of Texas. 26 feet 11 and a quarter inches. To me, he's not only a dark horse, he's also my expected winner because he is the defending champion. Let's put some respect on the champion's name. And it's ironic that throughout today, they're all considered dark horses because they're not the top athletes going in, but it was that way last year. So, Kelsey Daniel, you are my favorite, and I am very comfortable with you picking you. You've also already beaten everybody that's listed this season, in fact. All right, moving on to the triple jump, we get interesting here because this is where the team title battle will have some form. You have Jonathan Seremes of Texas Tech. And Jonathan transferred from Missouri to Texas Tech. He is still the defending champion. He leads the NCAA with 16.96 meter jump, 55 feet, 7 3/4 inches. That's still not even his best jump from last year. So there's a lot more in the tank. And I think that he's going to be hard to beat. I do have a frat brother in this field, Brandon Green Jr. of Oklahoma. '06 frat. He is number two, 16.81 meters, 55 feet, 2 inches. I think he's better suited for outdoors. I kind of really want to just say my friend's going to win it just because, but I'm not going to ignore the defending champion. I'm never going to do that. And then we have the dark horse as Theo Mutzinger of Kentucky. Reason why we got to give Theo his process because Theo has actually unfortunately already beaten Brandon. And that's unfortunate just because he's frat. My pick is still Jonathan. That would be 10 huge points. Think about that. If Malachi Snow doubles and Jonathan wins, that's 30 points. They will be in the discussion. They have other events, other athletes competing where they can rack up points. I think the winner will only need 40 points to win the meet. And on a lot of form charts, it's less than that. Points will be at a premium at this meet. So for Texas Tech, he's a huge, huge point getter. Now, moving to the high jump, you have young Kamani Jack of Georgia, the freshman leading the NCAA, 7 feet 5, 3 1/4, or 7 feet 5, 3/4 inches, 2.28 meters. He's beaten everybody this year, including a bevy of athletes who are ranked at the number 2 spot. I'm going to give two athletes a highlight, even though their marks are similar: 2.25 meters, 7 feet 4.5 inches. Kyron Washington of Oklahoma and Tyson Ritz of Oklahoma. Oklahoma has 3 athletes in this field. So just like Kansas State and Texas Tech and Illinois, Oklahoma is also a strong program for jumpers. It's very clear. Oklahoma's doing a great job. Kamani will be my favorite going in. I'm going to put him down because although I highlighted him, I did not write it. So I'm going to give him his credit. All right. Now let's talk about some pole vaulting. And that's about to be exciting because that's the one event where I'm like, I don't know. I really don't know. I haven't the slightest clue who is going to win this event. Granted, James Rhodes will enter as the leader. James Rhodes has a mark of 5.82 meters, 19 feet 1. But James lost to the number 2, Dyson Wicker of Nebraska. And Dyson has jumped 5.79 meters, 19 feet. And then you have the dark horse, who was also in the same conference, because all these are Big Ten guys, Cody Johnston of Illinois. And I'm not going to ever leave out a Petros athlete, ever, for obvious reasons. 18 feet, 8 1/4 inches. No, he's not number 3, but he's a Petros athlete, and I'm going to put him here. I put James down, but I'm less inclined. I really want to give it to Dyson. Dyson, forgive me, but I'm going to give Jason the lead going into this meet. Then we have the shot put, and I think it's a great field, but this to me is the one event where it looks like the favorite is so far ahead. And, he may not be because it is the shot put. But that's Tariq Robinson O'Hagan of Ole Miss. Tariq is a gamer. He shows up, shows out every chance he gets. Leads the nation, 21.18 meters, 69 6 inches, 69 feet 6 inches. Number 2 is Kobe Lawrence of Oregon. He has thrown 2016 or 66 feet 1 and 3 1/4 inches. So he is equally impressive. And the dark horse is the number 3, Jarno Van Dalen. And I'm putting him as the dark horse because his sister, Lita Van Dalen, she's also a competitor in the shot put for um, Florida. He's a big part of their team title hopes. If they would like to be competitive and win this national title, he has to show up. And I think he will. I think he's going to be a big 6 or 18 points for the Gators. All right. And my favorite will be Tariq. Moving to the weight throw. And I'm going to say the favorite is Ryan Johnson right off the bat, the NCAA record holder himself. I mean, man, has he been lighting it up this season or what? 84 feet, 2 1/4 inches, 25.66 meters. Enough said. Ryan's the guy. Texas Tanner of Air Force is going to come in as the number 2 guy. And then Jeremiah Nubb of Virginia will come in as the number 3 guy. I've already shared my favorite. I really want to give Texas and Jeremiah their props, but I think Ryan is a cut above everybody in this field. That throw at the Big Ten championships made me go, what? He had more in that arm? Clearly. Then we'll move to the men's heptathlon, and this is another event where it's kind of clear who the favorite is. You have Peyton Bear of Oregon, the defending champion who was at Mississippi State. He leads the nation with 6,371 points. He is strong in practically every event. He is going to be a tough out for anybody. Number 2, going into this meet, you have Kenneth Bird of Louisville. And you can't ignore, Louisville is also another great field program, specifically in the jumps, because they've had a pole vault champion, a long jump champion. So let's include Louisville in that group of great jumping schools. He has scored 6,161 points, leading the ACC. And then another Big Ten competitor matching Peyton Bear of Oregon is a Petros guy. You know, I'm not leaving him off. Luke Pellmans. At one point, he was the NCAA leader before Peyton got his season started. He scored 6,151 points. That is a converted score. I'm going to obviously go with Peyton as my winner. And so there you have it. Those are my picks. This is a long video, so if you got to break this up and listen in spades, or you just say, I'm not listening to all that, I'm just going to write you my thoughts in the comments, please do so. Please like, share, subscribe. Whatever you choose to reach out to me, please do so. You can also find me on social media. I'm TrackNerd06 on Instagram, TrackNerd2blogspot.com, and obviously here on the YouTube. Now, when it comes to the team title, on the women's side, I am actually going to go with Illinois as number 1 on the women's side. And the runner-up, I'm going to say it's Georgia. And I can hear y'all chirping in my ear now. Please don't chew me out. On the men's side, and I hate doing this, I'm going with Oregon. And I'm going to say Florida as runner-up because I want the Gators to win. I'm not even going to hide it. That was a shock to see them perform so well throughout the season. But that is my predictions. Again, please like, share, subscribe, and comment. I will speak to you all again Sunday night, Monday morning with a recap of what should be a fantastic NCAA championship weekend. And please expect for a record to be broken. Thanks for your support, guys. Speak to you soon.